I know that you lost quite a few folks through the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Who did you lose?
Everybody. My father, my mother, a grandmother, and my only sister. I'm the only one who got away.
How difficult was it for you to sit there and...
That's a question everybody asks me. You have to disassociate your feelings from your job. You have sworn to faithfully translate whatever it said. Well, you can't just get up and say, liar, liar. That's the end of your career. You have to translate these lies with a straight face. It's not easy, believe me, but you have to do it or else you're in trouble. You have to leave your feelings at home and become a machine. Otherwise you cannot function, you cannot do what you're hired to do.
I was closer to him than a lot of the big shots.
Right, right. And that's a tribute to you. And what did you see in him? And as far as strengths and weaknesses, since you were a little bit closer than even those guys on the sheet who may have been higher than you, you're up there.
Well, when I flew in the plane with him at Christmas, I'll come to that later.
Sure.
He would dictate to Elsie. And the words that would come out spontaneously were just magnificent. I could never speak or write like that.
Yeah.
He had a tremendous ability with words. He had a very warm heart and a loyalty. And when there was a major dispute by two of his loyal supporters up at the top, instead of resolving it between them, he'd put it over here. That happened on a few occasions. He was very warm-hearted. On the Christmas trip, we went to Athens, and walking down the street, a very ordinary-looking man stopped him, and he was from Jamestown, New York.
Really?
And he was, you know, nothing special, but Jackson stood there and talked with him warmly and with enthusiasm for a long time, which surprised me.
First night I was there, my first prisoner. Well, after receiving these rules from the colonel himself, I went into the prison. My first day into the prison, you know, there was 4 wings to this prison. The first wing held just the major war criminals. The 21 major war criminals were in this area. And as I went in, I looked around, and they had the nameplates over each cell. So as I walked in, I looked, and I seen a nameplate, Hermann Göring, as cell number 5. So I looked, I said, so this is Hermann Göring. I never thought I'd see this man. You know, the only time I seen him is in movies, probably in a newspaper. We didn't have any TVs at the time. So I'm looking, oh, Hermann Göring, I got to see this guy. So I went right over to his cell, and in the door there was a window the guards used to look into, and the window was about 15 inches square. It was a square window. So I went over there, and I looked in, I seen Göring, who was smoking a pipe and was reading a book, and he was sitting on his cot. So he's reading this book, so I said it loud enough so Göring, well, I was 18, and when you're 18, you're not the brightest person in the world. I'm sure I wasn't, but I was just a little cocky at the time. So I looked in the window, and I seen Göring. I said, so this is Göring. I said, well, he doesn't look like such a big man in prison, and I was really talking loud so he could hear. And Göring turned around, and he started staring at me, and I'm rattling off. The guard grabbed my coat, and he pulled me back. And he says, Göring can understand English. He says, if he turns you in, you can get court-martialed. I said, well, I better keep my mouth shut, my big mouth shut.
Well, speaking of concentration camp, during the trials was when most of the evidence of the concentration camps became very public, and certainly the gravity of it. That must have just well, I should ask you your reaction as this was sort of unfolding as you were.
It was unbelievable. When I translated experiments of doctors on human beings, I wouldn't have handled a frog like that. And every step of the experiment was laid down in writing, just like I translated protocols of the Einsatzgruppen, or those who murdered the Jews, and each step was recorded. It was recorded. They were issued 2,500 rounds in the morning, and in the evening they brought back 45, and 20 of them didn't explode, and the rest found their targets. That was written down word by word every day.
Wow.
It's if somebody hasn't seen it, ask Mr. Harris. He has seen the translation and he has seen the documents. Mm-hmm. You still cannot believe it even today. You can't believe it.
What to you is the legacy of the Nuremberg trials of which you were a part?
As I said, that was the first step on the way to the International Tribunal. The fact that we have now a place where dictators have to fear that they will be brought to justice the idea started in 1945 in Nuremberg. And this is, I think, just as Nuremberg once was the place of the party rallies and is now the city of human rights. A leaf in the breath of Nuremberg, which will make its name unforgettable.
Except for getting the water for Herman the German.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's really one of the funniest stories. I mean, the whole book is terrific.
Oh, golly. After every recess, one of my duties was to stand right at the corner of the docket where Herman the German sat, and I stood there at parade rest, Mm-hmm. And you were just a fixture. It made it look nice, And invariably he would say to me, "Wasser, bitte," water, please. Okay. So that meant I had to go down to the Lister bag, which was heavily chlorinated, of course, and I'd get a paper cup and bring it to him, and he'd taste it. Yeah. He'd say, "Bah, Amerikanisch," and he'd hand it back to me. Now that meant I had to take another walk down to get rid of the water and get rid of the cup. I decided I was sick of that, So I decided, gee, I'll take a walk. I'll go get the paper cup and I'll go down to the bathroom and I'll scoop it out of the toilet. Now it was flushed, okay, but in my idea, I got him anyway. Yeah, brought him the water and he drank it and he tasted that. It was pretty good. He says, yeah. He says, "Gut Wasser." I says, "I got you, babe." There was quite an exchange going on between von Schirach, who spoke, again, like I said, perfect English, and they were more or less arguing back and forth like that, and of course we heard all of it, and they called a recess, and of course we could relax at that time. Von Schirach turned to me and he said, "But our Hitler Youth was nothing more than your Boy Scouts." Mm-hmm. Well, I says, I don't remember my exact words, but I said, I fought the Hitler Youth, and I says they were vicious, really. And I says, and our Boy Scouts weren't taught to use weapons. He turned to me, he turned away from me, never said a word. And you know, he never even looked at me again. Every time he came in the elevator, if our eyes met, he'd put his head down, you know. I said, you're Boy Scouts baloney, you know. Isn't that what an awful thing to say, huh?